Okay, and we're going to talk about this case. Why has it gone down there? Not working for me tonight. I'm okay, Josephine. I'm going to talk about this case. I love you. I love you all. Okay. So we're going to talk about a case that is... I always, when I cover these cases, I think about how I've seen these cases before and how I've seen them kind of headlined when they're in the newspapers, when they're on other YouTube channels, when they're kind of covered. And this case will always be, it's the Rachel Burkheimer, the Burkheimer case, but it's always covered as the girl who was forced to dig her own grave. And she was forced to dig her own grave. And we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about this case in detail, tell us the whole story. We're going to pay her to... I'm going to pay her to... I read your thing. I love you to see you do rant videos. We're going to pay her great respect and we're going to tell her story fully. Because she needs to have her story told. And now, the one thing you're going to see about Rachel is, like, every single picture of her, she is beautiful. She's smiling. She's got this smile or this laugh, like in every picture. Like, I love this picture of her, this next one. She's just laughing. She's just happy. I'm going to eye itching. I'm going to get that thing when one of my eyes goes big in a minute. We all live for that. She just always looks so genuinely happy. And I'm going to tell her story. It's horrific. So warning for this case. So on the day of her disappearance, Rachel Burkheimer was told her family that she was driving a friend to the airport and she'd be straight home, but she never returned home. And on September the 27th of 2002, her family reported her missing to the Snohomish County Police, which is near Everett in Washington. Thank you, that girl. Now, Rachel was only 18 when she was murdered by those she trusted. Her body would be found in early October, just over a week later. And when her body was found and the real truth came out in her hometown, people just couldn't get over, and still haven't to this day gotten over what happened, why this happened, and the real details of how many people were involved. So Rachel was a beautiful young woman who was described as a funny, giving girl. She was a prankster. She loved to make people smile and laugh. She was absolutely famous for jumping out on people. Her mum, her dad, like, she would, if she could hear you coming into the kitchen, she'd hide behind the kitchen door. If you were coming out the bathroom, she'd hide behind the door. Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you for everyone with help with the gift girl. She was outgoing and made friends easy. She would organise baby showers, birthday parties, engagement parties for anyone she could, because she just loved to surprise people. She absolutely loved it. She never forgot a friend's birthday or her dad's promotion. She was always there with cards and presents. Absolutely loved to just treat people. Thank you, Jem. She lived, worked and went to high school on the 22,000-acre Tulalip Reservation in Snohomish County. Now, this was a reservation her and her family lived on. Absolutely beautiful. Scenic. It's amazing there. Like, who wouldn't want to live there? It's beautiful. Now, her parents said she had so many social groups and such a big network. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, everyone, for all the ice skates. She had so many friends from different jobs, different high schools, everything. Her father said, I just couldn't keep up. Like, she always seemed to have new friends around her. Her dad said it come to the point, her father Bill, he said, but I was just her answering machine. I'd come home from work and I'd take 27 messages for Rachel, start writing them all down on a piece of paper, and I'd be like, this person's called, that person's called. And she would just giggle and say, thanks, Dad. He was always giving her lifts everywhere, so it was like a taxi service. Her parents would do anything for her. Now, thank you, Anna. When she was a child, I should say, her parents thought she might be deaf. Because when she was born, she didn't start talking till the age of 3. And her dad said, like, we really worried because we thought there was something wrong with her hearing. She wasn't quite listening. Thank you, Anna. Like, comprehending things. She wasn't speaking. So they took her for loads of different tests. And then one day, it was like a dam bursting. She just began talking and talking. Her dad said she didn't shut up. She never shut up. She was good at imitating people, at doing accents. She had a range of funny voices. And her dad said, like, if she come into the house, me and her mum would turn the TV off because we know we ain't going to watch what we're watching. And she'd be like, I did this day, I did that day, I saw this, and a bit like me, really, like a constant burst of conversation where you're like, how did you get from that to that? But that's just who Rachel was. Her dad said she was so theatrical and creative. I don't know how I think that's how she lived her life, he said. I don't want to say it was like a fantasy, but it was kind of like she was just this big character in a bigger cast of an ongoing saga, and she just added to everyone's life that she met. Now, Rachel had planned later on to become a medical technician. She was only 4 feet 11 inches. She was tiny, but her friends described her as mighty and independent. She had 4-inch heels that she wore everywhere and a makeup kit the size of a toolbox. And with her beaming smile and bright eyes, she turned heads everywhere she went. Now, there was a life-changing moment for Rachel in August of 2001. She lost one of her best friends, Corey Haynes, in a horrific car accident. His car rolled over and he lost his life. And this hit her so hard. It changed her life going forward. They were friends, but her dad said like they were soulmates. They were going to be together. They lived in this small town. They were always together. He made her smile. And I just knew at some point it would cross into something else. Hey, Kathy. And so her dad's Bill, who talks a lot for Rachel, actually, he's always in the media. And whenever you see her story, it'll be his voice. He says they were soulmates. Whether they were going to end up continuing this brother and sister kind of relationship, this best friend, or he was going to be in her life as like a husband, he was always going to be in her life. And when Corey died, it changed who Rachel was. Now, within the year after Corey died, so in a year, 12 months after he died, she lost 6 additional friends to car wrecks, drowning, suicide, and an accidental shooting. But her family is convinced it was Corey who really changed her. Rachel's older sister, who's called Megan, said it was so hard, I think it literally killed her. She just became so heartbroken. She stopped smiling, she stopped laughing. I could just see it. The light was gone for Rachel. Now, although they weren't in a relationship, they were inseparable for years. They always had been. And Rachel would say to her dad, like, Corey knows me better than anyone on the planet. Like, Corey just knows me inside now. He was her soulmate. Bill said to the Seattle Post, I can't even describe the devastation of that event. It was a real struggle for her. That's putting it mildly. Rachel began to be severely depressed and her parents took her to a therapist hoping it would help. She left Marysville High School and began attending an alternative school, but then dropped out altogether. She continued to work at Jimmy's Pizza, thank you Kirsty, pizza and pasta restaurant for a while. But then she left. She said to her dad, look, I've just lost direction. Like, I don't enjoy anything. And her parents were quite well off. They were like, that's cool. Like, we can fund you for a little bit. They didn't want her just to work. They wanted her to enjoy where she was, whether it be in a shop or a shoe store or a pizza restaurant. So they wanted her to go and have social time. So they really wanted her to have that. So they were cool with her taking a break. Now, like I said, Rachel used to be the kind of girl who made everyone laugh or laughed all the time. Like I said, I love this picture of her. Just absolutely love it. Thank you, Andrea. She used to be like impulsive, go on trips, make memory boards. And all of a sudden after this string of tragic deaths, she just began to slip away from her family. She was difficult to get hold of. She's beautiful. Now, eventually, this downward spiral led to Rachel dabbling in cocaine and methamphetamine, very, very heavy drugs. Her father worried about Rachel's direction, and he had confronted her on several directions and said to her, look, I will pay for rehab. I need you to get back to a job or school. Like, this isn't what we want for you. Rachel said to him, like, I know I've got potential, but right now I need to numb this pain. Like, I'm not living. I can't get to the next step. And they were just at a real stuck point. I don't have any doubt that Rachel would have come back from this had she been able to live, that she would have found her feet again. She was just so sad in that moment, and addiction is so hard. And when you're feeling so low and you're so stressed, and that thing offers you that escape for that moment to get out of your feelings. I get why she got to this place. And like her dad said, she was stuck in that moment, but it wasn't forever. Like, she would have been fine. I'm not weird, I'm pouring a drink. I don't know why I always feel I need to say that. Obviously I'm not weird. So at this point, Rachel began to hang around with, Corey Haynes died in the rollover accident. At this point, Rachel found herself hanging around with a shady group of people. and one who would become her boyfriend. And his name was John Anderson, but he went by the nickname of Diggy. This is him here. He's not in any way deserving of her, not because of how he looks, but because of who he is. This is John Diggy Anderson. He was in and out of jail, and he was in a gang. Now, he was in a gang that he had created called the Northwest Mafia. And a detective, Brad Pintz, would later say it was an infant gang in its infant stages with a stupid name. And it just sums it up, really. And this officer was just kind of like, it wasn't a gang, it was stupid. It was stupid men, these boys, just hanging around and giving it a name that was stupid. Like, it was just ridiculous. And they had planned on becoming this massive crime enterprise, like of The Sopranos. It was all a bit pathetic. But obviously, Diggy was the leader of this gang. And it's just... Can we try and complete these ones? If you don't mind, guys, please. We're nearly there. So this gang would steal drugs. Thank you, Mel. They would steal the drugs. Thank you, Kirsty. Before they could sell them, they would take them. They would forget to make a profit. Thank you, Megan. They would end up selling them very slowly. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Happy Watermelon. So they would just, thank you, Lou. They would just forget to sell them and just do them. Thank you. And they had no ambition in life. They just wanted to take from other people. They would sit around and play video games, smoke dope and do coke, and meth at parties. Thank you, Lee. And this is how she started hanging around with them, because, you know, they were all doing the same. Thank you, Sophie. Now, Bill Burkheimer would find out about Rachel's relationship with Anderson when he received, thank you, Sue, would receive a phone bill for $640. And it showed that his daughter had been making calls to the correctional facility in Shelton in Washington. So she is beautiful. Just look at her smile though, and her eyes, like, she's so open and just, she should be here. So thank you, Kirsty. So her dad is like, why are you writing to idiots in prison? And Sophie keeps, sorry, Sophie, I just read today. Rachel keeps saying, like, I see the good in him. Like, I really see he's a good person. And I believe in him. And her dad, obviously being a dad, is like, this is not what I want from you. So around this time, we know that Diggy gets out of prison. He starts to be very abusive. Thank you, Kirsty. He's very toxic. He's abusive. He's controlling. Now, thank you, Soph. We know after the fact that Rachel had reached out to some friends and actually talked about how jealous he was. He got to the stage where he would sniff her clothing, her hair and her hands to see if she'd been near another man whenever he was around her. He would frequently threaten her family. And Megan, her sister, said that she was frequently starting to come home with bruises. And the family believed fully, thank you, Lulu, I love that gift. Her family believed that in the weeks before her death, she had started to see the light and see what was happening and just want to get away from these people. She could understand, like, nah, I'm at a really dark place and this dark place is leaving me to make dark decisions and I'm not happy. She had sat on the end of her dad's bed at one point until 2 a.m. in the week before and just started talking about her fears, like all these threats that had been happening. And she kind of addressed, like, Daddy, like, the reason I'm doing this is because I miss Cody. I miss Corey, I miss Corey. I miss that friend. And I've got something missing inside of me and I've just been chasing that. And her dad's like, I get that, but, like, you're so beautiful, you're so productive, you've got so much promise. And at this point, Rachel would also tell her sister Megan, like, I've had enough. I want to reclaim my life. I want to be back close to my family. Now, when you listen to True Crime Daily, which I love True Crime Daily on YouTube, her dad tells of one of his last memories of her. And he says, on that beautiful Sunday morning, she was sitting on the porch. The sun was bouncing off her hair and I'd not seen that radiance in her for months. She absolutely, I thought to myself, like, she's coming back to me. And this was in the months just before she died. It was one of the last times he'd seen her sat on the family property. And she told her dad on this time, when he looks at her, she catches him kind of smiling at her. And she says, I've met a new friend. His name's Morris, and he's great. Now, Morris Ramirez is 18. He's also a member of the Northwest Mafia. Now, he has started to fancy Rachel, and he has told her he's going to help her get out of the gang. He's going to help her get away from Digger. He's going to help her get away from this lifestyle. Now, him and Rachel begin to develop this bond, and their goal to get out of the mafia situation, this little stupid gang. Now, he truly, later on, will say that he loves Rachel. She truly trusts him because he reminds her of her relationship prior with Corey. Now, unfortunately, John Anderson, Digger, will force Ramirez to make the most fateful decision of his life at some point. In an attempt to get the other gang members to turn on Rachel, Digger decides that he's had enough of her, and he tells the whole gang that Diggy decides to tell the whole gang that Rachel is working as an informant with the police. He says that she's passing on gang secrets and she's a danger. Now, at this point, Rachel knows this through Morris. She goes and tells her sister Megan and says, look, I'm really scared. Like, he's trying to get people to turn on me. Hi, Lizzie. And Megan kind of says, look, this is a little punk gang. Rachel, you've got to ignore this. Like, you need to just stay away from them. He's dangerous, but he's just not that dangerous. He's not a gang member. Do you know what I mean? He's a punk. Now, on a cool September evening 2002, Rachel went to a party with 7 members of the Northwest Mafia. She was with Morris, so she felt safe. He'd promised he was always going to look after her. And she was trying to prove to the other gang members, like, I didn't turn on you. I'd never give away your secrets. Now, John Anderson then arrives at the party and they're all smoking weed. And he sees her talking to Morris. He doesn't like it. And he comes in from the outside of the duplex and he starts just smacking other kids in the face who are sat at this party, other people from the Northwest Mafia. At this point, guns are drawn. And Rachel tries to get up to leave. And she's like, no, I'm going to get up and leave. She goes up to the door to try and get out. He grabs her by the hair, knocks her down on the floor, and a couple of other guys start helping him to attack her. At this point, most of the members of this gang begin to stomp on her. They're kicking her. Somebody then says to the partygoers and all these people in this house, turn up the music so you can't hear her scream. They scoop Rachel up. They took her out to the garage. They duct tape her so she can't scream anymore. And then while she's laying on the floor of the garage, they start talking about gang R-ing her. And they're talking about in graphic detail who's going to do what to her. They then order pizza. They play video games over her body while she's still just laying there, hearing it all. They smoke pot and she is laying there thinking it's going to come to an end. Now, Maurice is doing nothing. He's part of this plan. Now, Trissa Connor, a girl who is the owner of the house and the girlfriend of one of the gang members, came home from her nursing classes at Everest Community College, and when she enters the garage, she's horrified to find a blonde woman bound and gagged on the floor. Trissa walks into the garage, sees Rachel beaten up, tied, laying on the floor, and she went back to the kitchen to get a knife and tries to cut her free, her hands and her feet. Anderson intervenes and says that she has to stop trying to save Rachel or she'll be next. Connor was ordered to leave the garage and she's told, forget about this. And she goes and recalls how she sits on her couch. She covers up her ears because she can hear the sounds of screaming and a beating. We don't know what ultimately happened in that garage. We know whatever it was a gang attack. It was brutal. She later sees the men stuff the body of Rachel into a large black duffel bag and place her into the back of a Jeep. And she believes she's dead at that point, and she goes about her day. Anderson, Maurice and 2 others then drive 30 miles into the mountains. Maurice, who Rachel trusted with her life, has taken part in her kidnapping and her beating. And the young men then talk about, let's get a hotel room and let her heal for days, let the injuries go away, then we'll let her go, because then no one's going to be able to tell that we've done this. We just have to sit with her until she can't have anything to show. Now, once they arrive at the foothills of the Cascade Mountains, they're like, nah, let's just go get shovels. They left Rivera's, who is Maurice, I should say, there with Rachel. And he is the guy that's always said he's going to keep her safe, he's going to help her get out of the gang. And Rachel begs him. She begs him. She says, look, I love you. Like, you're my friend. Like, I trust you. Don't let me die in the mountains. Like, I'm 18, don't let me die here. She says, the one thing you have to promise me is they can't drown me. I'm so scared of water. Like, I'm tied up. I'm not going to be able to get free. And she's just begging him. She's like saying, like, I know I'm going to die. I know my dad's going to find my body out here, but don't let me drown. Like, don't let me drown. I can't be drowned. She also says she doesn't like the dark, and she's like, let them kill me, but don't let the place be in a hole. Like, I don't want to do that. And Rivera says to her, look, it's not going to go that far. And I'm not going to let you free. Like, they're going to come for me. I think in that moment, for me, this is the hardest moment. Like, this is a man you trusted. This is a man you thought was going to save you. This is a man that reminded you of Corey. You told your dad, like, I met this great guy, like, he's going to help me. And you're alone with him, and you're saying, like, please, just see one good thing in me, like I've seen in you. See that I'm worth this. Now, the others come back, and instantly she knows that, like, this betrayal has cost her a life. He's taken her to the party, he's allowed this to happen, he's not stopping them. She has nothing, she has no one in that moment. He chose his loyalty to the Northwest Mafia, and she is, as his best friend, is sold out in that last moment of freedom. They then get out of their car and load the shovels from the Jeep. Josh Anderson takes a shovel, and they proceed to dig her grave. They force her at times to help dig the grave, just to let her know that this is for you, which she's trying to do with her hands taped. They're just humiliating her. They stop, they drink. At one point, when she's being forced to kind of take part, and she's covered in blood and she's broken, Rivera's just sits smoking and drinking a soda in the car, and just watches her while she's, like, literally tears in her eyes, begging him, like, please, just do something, like, drive the car and do something, like, help me. Anderson told another gang member to get Rachel out of the bag and strip her down. They took off all of her clothing, off all of her jewellery, off anything that could identify her. She begged them to let them keep one ring that she had on, and it was a ring that had been given to her by Corey Haynes, her best friend, and she says, please let me die with it. And she's trying to say to Rivera's, like, if I die with that ring on, like, I'll be with him, like, don't take that. And she's almost saying to him, like, if I've got to die, just let me keep that one. And they won't, they take it from her. She then says to them, untake my feet. And they're like, why? She goes, I want to walk to my own grave. I don't want you to carry me. I don't want you to push me. I want to walk to my own grave. If I have to do this, you have to let me do this by myself. And she walks to the grave. She steps down into the shallow hole, and then she's told to lay face down in the grave. She gets onto her knees, she starts to pray, and Anderson says to her, don't worry, you'll be with your friend soon. And then he begins to shoot her in the back of the head until the gun is jammed. Rivera stands at the side and watches her die, and then they cover the grave and leave her there. Now, they then say they're going to have a pact in place and nobody is going to tell what happened. They leave her behind in the dark, in the damp ditch, everything she made him promise not to do to her. They say they're going to have a secret pact, nobody talks. The Burkheimer family do not go for this, so they rally together, they distribute missing persons flyers, they cover counties around. Now, they investigate, the police are quick to investigate this because their family is so strong. The police investigate very quickly, and they get a tip from one of the mothers of the gang members, and big up this mum, man. big up this mum, because this mum from the gang had overheard things in her own house, and she made a choice. She needed somebody else's child to be found, and she would hand over her own son to do so. And that would be so hard. But talking about the brutality against one 8-year-old girl, I would easily be able to make this decision. I couldn't be okay with a child who was this vile and brutal living in my house and not do something. And she phones them and she says, look to the red Jeep. It's registered to Matthew Durham, another gang member. I believe they buried her in the mountains. And she pretty much tells them which member of the gang will break first. She says, go to this guy, Matthew, the one with the Jeep. She said, he'll sing. And so they pressure this young man, and he quickly takes him straight to the body. The mum's right. And they find the shallow grave off Writer Road at the east of the Gold Bar. Now, Matthew Durham, who's 17 in the gang, he proceeds to tell police exactly what's happened in the garage at the house, and that he was ordered by Anderson to drive the vehicle to the remote spot, and that he was told to help dig, carry the duff bag, and he tells about the get on your knees, about her praying. He tells the whole story in America. Investigators then proceed to pick up the others Durham has identified and taken part in the gruesome murder, including Rivera's, Anderson and Barth. I'll put their picture up again and we'll try to explain who they are. I know it's not very clear. The pictures are from so long ago. So you have the main leader here, her ex-boyfriend here. Let me have a look. This is Maurice right on the end here. This guy here. This is Matthew, the one that told all the secrets here. Jeff Garth, whatever he's called there. And then there's some of the other members that haven't been mentioned yet down here, some of the younger ones. These were absolute scumbags. Now we know that ultimately 8 people were convicted in this crime. 2 received life sentences. One of them was Anderson. The rest are serving substantial time behind bars. On May the 21st, 2004, Anderson wiped tears from his eyes as he was imposed life sentence with no parole. I think he should have got the death penalty. I don't know if they do in the state. Bill Burkheimer said, this is not a moment of celebration for us. It's victory, but it's a loss. We still don't have our daughter. It's hard to put into words what we've lost. The day Rachel was murdered, 8 men decided to ignore their moral compasses and to choose loyalty to a gang, leading to a senseless crime that could have been stopped multiple times over. After spending years in a court facing each of their daughter's killers one by one for trial, Bill has kept the loss of Rachel at the forefront of his mind. He said, I'll never forget when I see a photo of that gravesite. After they removed her body, in the dirt, there was an imprint of my daughter's hands in praying position, perfectly preserved in that soil. I knew that she died praying. Instead of crumbling, Bill began to raise awareness for other crime victims. Take them down. He has worked on legislation to make it a crime not to render care for an injured person, which we are now working on for Danielle's law in the UK, right? It's the same thing. On September the 25th, 2007, the National Day of Remembrance for Murder Victims was held at the Capitol in Olympia in Washington. On that day, Bill presented a moving and raw declaration to the crowd that said this. I'm going to move this down because I don't know if I'll be able to look right. Whereas insidious grief and pain are a direct result of losing a loved one to murder, this day should be a day of grief relief. All survivors get 1 day pass on the pain, and no monsters can whisper it in their ears. Whereas some ignorant people who are shallow and narrow-minded enough to believe families who have had a loved one murdered have some kind of communicable disease, we on this day finally realise that murder is not contagious. Furthermore, no doctor will think they can prescribe grief pills. There is no such thing. Whereas the criminal justice system that prosecuted the perpetrators of murder may not have produced the end result that is in line with the victim's family's concept of justice. Therefore, on this day, surviving families may re-sentence such murders to a more appropriate sentence determined by the victim's loved ones, where no appeals will be considered. Whereas past judicial decisions are to set aside scores of sentences for crimes of felony, assault, murder have re-victimised the families of victims time and time again. Therefore, no judicial body will ever make such an unjust and painful decision ever again. Whereas crime victims or organisations and support groups struggle to obtain adequate funding to maintain their vital role in communities, and whose tireless efforts are dedicated and committed people to bringing people strength and courage to friends, family and violent crime, shall on this day receive enough operating funding to effectively operate forever, or until there's no more violent crimes, whichever comes first. Therefore I, Bill Burkheimer, benevolent ruler of the world, do hereby declare this day a day of peace, healing and comfort to all those who have been impacted by this horrific crime of murder, as I have when I lost my baby girl. So we're going to talk about the after effect of this crisis. And he's basically talking about if it's a real day of day for victims, then they should be in control. There should be no more systems that say in death penalty cases you've got to go back and back again and fight the court case. There should be no less sentences. It should be down to families. Like, if you take my daughter and my grief is forever, then why do you get out in 26 years? That makes no sense. Like, we're living the life sentence, and he's basically saying, like, if I was the ruler of the world, I would say that there is no more freedom until this stops forever, and it's not going to stop, is it? Her father also said this case may go away, but Rachel never will. Her life was not tragic, her death was. In 2002, Matthew Durham, 37, and Maurice Rivera's 38, who were originally sentenced to 26 years for their role, had their sentences reduced to 22.5 years. The Snohomish County Superior Court Judge, George Appel, issued the ruling. He said that Durham and Rivera, who were 17 and 18 at the time, respectively, when they drove Rachel to the site of her murder and helped dig her grave, will now be released from prison before their 40th birthdays. John Whitaker, who took sentimental jewellery from Rachel as she was dying and begged for him not to just to let her keep that one piece, was originally sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In 3 years later, he was convicted of first-degree murder and given a chance of possibility of parole. Her father said, this last trial, which was 12 years after the last trial, it was the hardest of them all. Mentally, emotionally, physically, in every aspect. The sad part is, we always thought when this trial is over, when it's over, but every time it's over, we have to watch her walk away again and say goodbye to her again. Ooh. He said nothing can bring closure. Every one of the defendants' families still have their sons. The impact is with us forever. And this is how the justice system could just fuck up these families time and time again. Like, you give them one sentence, which isn't enough, 26 years, right? She was only 18 as well. But then you go, actually, we'll take 4 years off, like it's too much. You'll be out before you're 40. Like, she didn't get to live to 20. So how is that fair? Why are we always thinking about what they need, what's fair for them? It pisses me off. Like, really, like, you didn't just kill this girl. It wasn't just like, oh, you stabbed her, it was a heated argument. Even that's disgusting. Like, you planned, you plotted, you absolutely tortured her. You physically and mentally tortured her at the last minute. You made her beg for things that weren't possible. Don't drown me, don't put me in the dark, let me pray, let me keep... Even the little bits you could have given, you didn't fucking give it her. You literally took everything from her and you stood back in a gang of boys or men. You did this as a gang. She stood no chance against you. None. And you had guns, you had weapons, you had shovels, and she was 4'11". Even at a time when you decided maybe we can let her heal, maybe we can let her go, they didn't let her go. There is no reason, Melon. They killed her because they could, because she wasn't strong enough to fight back, because she was a girl, because they were angry, because they were pricks, because they wanted to be gangsters. They killed her because they couldn't diminish her sparkle any other way, and because she'd woken up and realised that she deserved a better life and she deserved to be around better people, and they couldn't have that. We put pink hearts for Rachel because, like, literally it just breaks my heart that there's people out there that... The sentences are ridiculous. see on the internet when I search her name, I can't find one photo where she looks anything more than just delighted to be alive, where she's just not smiling, where she's not vivacious, where she's not open and beautiful. And you can tell, like, despite being model looking, you could tell she was just open and honest to everyone. She found goodness in people, even these boys who were the scum of the universe. Her name was Rachel Burkheimer.